friends, my name is Maylin and welcome back to my channel. I'm a flutist, performer, and music teacher located in the city of Kamloops, British Columbia, and this is my channel where we learn all things flute. So thank you so much for joining me here today. In today's video, we'll finally be moving back to the Trevor Wise Beginner's Book for the Flute Part 2, and this is going to be Part 41. So if you're interested, then just keep on watching. As always, if you have any questions throughout the video, feel free to drop them in the comment section down below. I do my best to answer them as soon as I see them. Also, if you have any questions or any issues when it comes to practicing, feel free to check out my free practice guide, also located in the description down below. It gives you 8 easy steps to follow to help you to have a more guided practice session. Alright, so let's just get right into today's video. So thank you so much for waiting for this series to continue. I know it's been a while and I took a break from them, but now I'll be going back into them again. So today we'll be starting again from the Trevor Wise Beginner's Book for the Flute Part 2, and we'll be going on page 60. So what we see at the top here is we're going to talk about time signatures. I'm just going to put the blurb that Mr. Y writes right over here, and I'll just read it out to you. Sometimes the time signature changes during a piece, but as in this example, the pulse or beat remains the same. 3/8 is equal to half a bar of 6/8. So a composer does this sometimes just to change how the beat will feel. So rather than it always being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, instead we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that can change throughout this piece as we see. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to put it up right over here, and we'll go through our normal 4 little bits before we start the piece, and then we'll go into our clapping count. The name of the song here is called Hunting Song, written by an 18th century French composer. The first thing we're going to look at first is going to be our key signature. So that's number 1. So we're going to go to the beginning of the piece, and we do see that there's an accidental there. We see that there is 1 sharp, and that is F sharp. So that means it can either be in G major or E minor. So let's take a look and see at the first and the last notes. So the first note that we see, if we ignore the pickup, it is a G, and the last one we end on is a G, so that's already a strong indication that we're in G major. If it's an E minor, then that means we're going to be seeing the raised 7th, which is the D, and the D would be sharp. So if we look throughout the piece, we don't see any D sharps anywhere. They're just the regular D, so I would say that we are in G major. And of course, we did see the top there does also tell us that it's in G major. So it's always good to go through those steps just to make sure that you do know that you understand how you're finding those key signatures. The next thing we're going to be looking at, of course, is that time signature. So we initially start with 6/8. As a reminder, 6 being the top note tells us how many beats are in each bar. So that means we have 6 beats per bar. And then the bottom number tells us what the note value is for that bar. And instead of usually seeing like a 4, which would be quarter notes, or 2, which is half notes, we are actually seeing 8 here. This one's the easiest to remember because an 8 equals an 8th note. We do notice that we are starting on a pickup bar, so that means we're starting on beat 6. Again, if you want to see the rest of that bar, it's going to be all the way at the end of the piece, and you can see the rest of the 5 beats right there. Just be aware, of course, that we are switching between 3/8, so that means 3 eighth notes per bar, and back to 6/8. So as Mr. Y had already said, we are having the same beat, so we're still beating 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It just means that now we have a bar that doesn't have 4, 5, 6, and just 1, 2, 3. The third thing we're going to be looking at would be our accidentals and dynamics. So we don't have any crazy accidentals, but we do have a lot of interesting dynamics here, so it's always important to take note of them. So we start on a mezzo forte, then we actually go into a nice crescendo, so it can go to maybe a forte or a double forte, depending on how strong you want that contrast to be. Then we do have a decrescendo, then we have another little crescendo that continues all the way into that second line there, that second bar, 6/8. Then we do go to a decrescendo again. If you want to again have a nice contrast, maybe go down to a mezzo piano. Then we do start at a forte again, play forte all the way to that third line, second bar. We go immediately down to piano. Then we have that really nice, beautiful crescendo all the way to forte to finish off. And then the last thing we're going to be looking at is number 4, our roadmap. So we're going to take a look and see if we have any repeats here or any codas that we need to take note of, and I don't see anything, so that means we're just going to be reading it from top to bottom. Alright, so now we're going to be going into that clap and count. This is going to be at a slower tempo. When you are more comfortable, make sure that you do slowly increase the tempo marking until you're at a nice allegro tempo. Allegro meaning quickly. The metronome is going to be an eighth note equals 130. So every single eighth note is going to be beat by the metronome here. I will count us in one bar for nothing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so again, if that's a little bit too fast for you, feel free to slow that down in the playback settings. All right, so now I'm going to be putting that metronome marking to 65. So this is how it's going to feel with just having those strong beats with the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so that one's going to be a really good challenge. Make sure that you do take it as slow as you need it to do without making a lot of mistakes. And then again, every single day when you come back to this piece, make sure that you bump up that metronome marking maybe 2, 3, 4 clicks, whatever it is that you feel comfortable with, until you can play it at a nice allegro speed. Now we're going to play that piece at that tempo with the flute. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. So again, if you want, you can try that with the metronome beating out the 8th. So again, you're just going to double that time. So I'd bring it back up to 130. And this is going to be a dotted quarter note equals 110. I'm going to clap and count first just so that we know exactly what it's going to sound like, and then I'll play it for you on the flute. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so it's going to be a fun challenge to play. Now we're going to do it with the flute. Again, the dotted quarter note is going to equal 110. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. All right, very nice. So if you do get up to that tempo, brava. That is definitely going to be a tricky one to learn. So again, give yourself a lot of time. Make sure you do it in nice slow steps, and especially if you're finding you're stumbling over some of the transitions between 3/8 and 6/8, make sure that you do it nice and slow until you're comfortable with it, and then slowly bump up that tempo. Amazing work. So if you were able to get through that one, congratulations. I'm really, really proud of you. Now we're going to go on to our next subject of today's lesson, and that's going to be 16th notes or semiquavers. There are many different ways that we can divide a semiquaver into different notes. So I'm just going to put up what Mr. Y has written right over here. So I'm going to be translating between the English and our normal North American lingo here. So a quaver note or an eighth note may be divided into 2 semiquavers or 16th notes. So that means that for every 1 eighth note, you can fit in 2 16th notes or semiquavers. A crotchet, which is a quarter note, will either have 2 quavers, so 2 eighth notes, or 4 semiquavers, which is 4 16th notes. So that means in 1 quarter note, you can fit 4 16ths. And finally, A crochet can also be divided into an eighth with 2 semiquavers. So that would be a quaver and 2 semiquavers, or 2 semiquavers and a quaver. So that means an eighth note can be divided into, that means a quarter note can be divided into 1/8 and 2/16, or 2/16 and 1/8. I know that can seem a little bit confusing, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a little chart here that I've handwritten that will explain exactly how the notes are divided, so it makes a little bit more sense. So first we start with our whole note, so that means we can have 4 beats in every whole note. And again, this will change depending on the time signature, but for our case in point here, they're going to be 4 beats. So for one whole note, that means we can have 2 half notes. So there you'll see 2 half notes. And then for each half note, we can have 2 quarter notes. So then you're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4 quarter notes all together. So if you wanted to go back up to that the pyramid here, 4 quarter notes would equal 1 whole note. And then you can do the same and continue to divide it down. So now we're going to have 2 eighth notes per quarter note, and then you can have 2/16 per eighth note. So that's just how it goes. And you can go down to 32nds and 64ths as well, but you won't be seeing that at this stage yet. All right. So why don't we do a little bit of the clapping and counting here. So I'm just going to put up our next little exercise that introduces the 16ths right over here. So again, let's start with our 4 little bits that we go through before we start every piece. The first thing we're going to look at is our key signature. So if we look at the beginning of the piece here, we do see instead of just having 1 sharp like the other piece, we do have 2 sharps. So we have an F sharp and we have a C sharp. So that means, if you remember correctly, if you memorize this already, 2 sharps means that it can either be in D major or B minor. So let's take a look at the first note and the last note and to see if it's in our tonic D major key. So we do start on a D and we do end on a D. So again, very strong case in point that we're starting in D major. Next thing we're going to look at is the relative minor, which raised 7th. So again, that would be B minor. B minor, the raised 7th would be A. A sharp was what we'd be looking for. Well, we do see 1 A and it's not sharp. So that again would suggest that we are in D major, which we are. All right, the next thing we're going to look at is our time signature. So here we are in 2/4. Again, the top note meaning how many beats are in each bar. So we have 2 beats per bar, and then the bottom number telling us what the note type is. So that is a 4 again, which represents quarter notes. So that means we have 2 quarter notes per bar. That's very important to note for this one. All right, the next thing we're going to look at is to see if you have any crazy accents or dynamics. In this case, we don't, because we're just really focusing on the rhythm. And then the 4th thing we're going to be looking at is the roadmap. And again, we don't have any repeats or anything like that. Just start to bottom, beginning to end. Now we'll be doing the clap and count. I'm going to be putting the metronome here at a very slow tempo, and it'll be counting each quarter note. So again, in 2/4, that means it's going to be counting beats 1 and beats 2. So with this one, again, we want to make it sure it's nice and slow, that you feel very confident. Make sure that you go over this one quite a few times until you feel like you're very comfortable with this rhythm. Again, 16th notes can seem really, really fast and daunting. So if you slow down the overall tempo, it'll make it feel a lot more doable. The metronome is going to be set at a quarter note equals 52. 1 and 2 and 1 E and a 2 E and a. So just to let you know, when I'm subdividing the 16th notes, I'm going to be giving each little note a name. So when we have 4 16ths together, I like to do 1 E and a. 1 E and a. So we always know 1 and, so that's where our beats 1, and then the and would be where we would have a second 8th note. And now we're just adding an extra little note between those. All right, so here we go. 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 and 1 E and a 2 and 1 E and a 2 and 1 E and a 2, 1 E and a 2 and 1 E and a 2 and 1 E and a 2 and 1 and 2. Very good. So again, make sure that you do this multiple times. Make sure that when you're clapping, you're also saying the subdivisions out loud, so that when you end up reading it in your mind, then you'll be able to hear those subdivisions as well. That will help you in the long run when you're starting to learn more complex rhythms. Okay, so I'm going to be playing that with our flute at the same tempo. Again, as a reminder, quarter note equals 52. Beautiful, very well played. So once you feel like it's really nice and comfortable, then I want you to also try and play this a little bit faster, just to see how fast you can play it, but accurate. You wouldn't want to go any faster than quarter equals 70 or 80. All right, so now we're going to do one more exercise when it comes to that 16th note. So I'm just going to put it up right over here. All right, so this is going to be a long, tricky piece. So again, feel free to take your time and really break this one down into little chunks. And we're going to start with our 4 little bits. We're going to start first with our key signature. We have 3 sharps in the key signature here. So we have F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. So if you remember what those are, again, my little reminders when we have sharp keys is that for each sharp, it's one line to build a letter. So for G major, for example, we have F sharp, that's just one line. So that's 1 sharp for G major is F sharp. For D major, which we already did in the previous one, we have 2 sharps, so it takes us 2 strokes to make a D. For A major, we have 3 sharps, so 3 sharps, 1, 2, 3 to make the A. And it goes the same thing with E, and the same thing with B major as well. So that's just a great little tip to remember what your major keys are with the sharp keys. Okay, so now we're going to check to make sure that we are playing A major the whole way through. So again, we look at our first note, it is an A. Our last note, it would also be the fine there. So fine being that end of the first line, which is an A as well. So that highly suggests the word A major. If it wasn't an A major, it would be in F sharp minor. If we were in F sharp minor, that would mean that we'd be seeing a lot of E sharps. So if we take a look and go through that whole piece, I don't see any accidental sharps, especially any E's. So it highly suggests that it is an A major, which it is. Next thing we're going to look at again is our time signature. So we are in 2/4 again, so 2 quarter notes per measure. The next thing we're going to look at is our dynamics here. So this is going to be really cool because essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be playing the first 4 bars forte of each line, and then the next 4 bars we're going to be playing it piano. So you have a real contrast between forte and piano. So again, strong and soft. Our roadmap, now this one is an interesting piece. So what we're going to be doing is every single time you play a line, we're actually going to repeat it. So we're going to repeat that first line, repeat that second line, repeat that third line, repeat the 4th line and 5th line, because that's under one bracket. And then at the end it says DC al fine. DC is short for da capo al fine. Da capo meaning, it's a great way to remember da capo, like a cap, means you want to go all the way up to the beginning of the piece. So that means we'll go back to the beginning of the piece and play that first line all the way to the end, and that's it. So you're not going to repeat that first line a 4th time. You'll only be playing it 3 times total. All right, so again, this is going to be at an allegro tempo. We don't want to take it too fast to start. I'm going to be clapping this at a quarter note equals 60 to start. So I'm not going to be clapping the repeats, but I'll play on the flute for you with the repeats. 1, 2, 1 and 2, and 1 and 2, and 1 and 2, and 1 and 2, and 1 and a 2, and 1 and 2. And 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1, 2. 1, 2 E and a 1 and 2. 1 and 2 E and a 1 and 2. 1 and 2 E and a 1 and 2. 1 and 2 E and a 1, 2. 1, so that one is quite tricky. So now I'm going to be playing that with the flute, again with the repeats at the same tempo. 1, 2, 1, and 2. Very good. So that one is definitely a longer piece. So if you feel like it is a bit too long, try playing it without those repeats first and then slowly add in those repeats as you build up endurance. Just make sure that you are getting all the correct notes. So if you feel like you're missing some of those accidentals, especially like the G sharp, for example, don't hesitate to write in any of the letter names that you need reminders for if you feel like you're always missing one here or one there. Alright, so that's going to be it for today's video. As always, if you do have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section down below. I do my best to answer them as soon as I see them. And of course, if you have any issues when it comes to practicing, check out my free practice guide, also located in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I just wanted to remind you that you are amazing and you are doing amazing things for yourself for watching a video like this. And thank you so much for joining me here. Happy fluting!